Life has a funny way of testing us, whether that be through our everyday trials and tribulations, or the sheer challenges that rise through means of friendly competition. We test ourselves in a magnitude of ways. As we do, we strive to accomplish our own goals in our field of expertise. If I could place emphasis on one takeaway from my journeys with the Mega Man series, it would be that this franchise tests us. Regardless of the challenges that arise, there's one thing for certain: they only make the Mega Man fanbase that much stronger. I don't think I know a greater fanbase than the Mega Man universe. This series has had many twists and turns, resulting with many setbacks, and at times, a complete series hiatus. One thing, however, is apparent: we find strength through camaraderie in the Capcom community, and expressing our passion for our favorite franchises. With that said, never count out the Blue Bomber. Welcome to Mega Man 7. With the gaming landscape now transitioned well into the 4th generation, the 16-bit revolution was well underway. A true evolution in gaming was taking place right before our very eyes, with massive technological shifts as a whole. The console wars was ramping up, and Nintendo had its very first true competition in the form of the Sega Genesis. Choosing your next dedicated console was easier said than done. Another lovable blue hero entered the mix in the form of Sonic the Hedgehog, and Sega was blowing our minds with their new blast processing campaigns. Never before had I been presented with so many options as I did now. Collectively, the gaming industry was booming, and so with it the demand for them. Sega was doing what Nintendo don't, but at this time I hadn't fully jumped ship. I would already be playing Mega Man X. In fact, I had received it that same year along with Street Fighter II. These games alone would be my focus for the entire summer. Now, Mega Man X had undoubtedly changed the formula going forward. From the amazing armor upgrades, larger-than-life Mavericks, and a threat unlike anything before in Sigma, I remember receiving the Mega Man X January bonus issue of Nintendo Power and thinking just how badass this adventure was shaping up to be. When a game had its very own dedicated silver-plated magazine cover, you know we were in for something big. Hot damn, this was Mega Man X. With so much commotion about these new systems and software, the adventures of classic Mega Man had almost felt like a lifetime ago. Summer breaks from school felt like their own unique side quests. As I continued to read through the pages of Nintendo Power and learning about the passing of Dr. Light, I felt in my heart that we still had some unfinished business with classic Mega Man, and with the story never truly going into detail the fate of classic Mega Man, I knew his legacy would carry on in some fashion. With the growing demand for the next generation of video games, my small local mom and pop rental stores could no longer keep up. Many of my favorite shops growing up were replaced with big box retailers. There was a new king of retail rentals at that time, going by the name Blockbuster Video. It's here that I would see some groundbreaking new games, and boy were they everywhere. In the past, if I rented a copy of Mega Man 3 from my local video shop, I was waiting to the end of the week for it to be checked back in. But now, with the new Blockbuster Video, there were dozens of copies of my favorite titles available at any time. It was then, at that very moment, I held in my hands what appeared to be a brand new installment of the classic Mega Man series. But how? When did we go back? I witnessed Wily being locked away, yet whatever the reason for his return, I was about to reunite with classic Mega Man, and that's all that mattered to me. I rushed home to try it out. What was I in for? And just who are these new robot masters? Now, although Mega Man officially made his leap into the 16-bit era, the familiar action-oriented platforming we have grown to love throughout the original 6 installments returned to form. KJ Inafune would make his triumphant return, conceptualizing many of the early key concepts for the game. Inafune felt it was the right time to now hand the reins off to Hayato Kaji to lead the team. With significant demands for follow-up installments of the Mega Man X series, the Capcom team had a very limited development window, and I mean truly limited, with a mere 3-month time frame at best. With finite time, KJ Inafune felt that the experience among his newly constructed team was well equipped for the task at hand. With Hayato Kaji now established as head illustrator for Mega Man 7, the team felt optimistic and were well devoted to seeing the project through. Designer Yoshi Suda would also be interviewed early on, stating, "I remember it being quite fun, like a sports team camp or something. Still, there are so many things about this title that I have regrets about, and even at this time, we all found ourselves wishing for another month or so to work on it." Despite the 3-month development window, the project was quite ambitious, giving us some of today's most iconic characters among the franchise. Mega Man 7 would introduce us to our faithful lab assistant, Otto, designed by Inafune himself. Otto's design was inspired by the various Tin Man style robots of his childhood. The biggest inclusion this time around was giving us the now iconic bass and treble. Initially rough sketched by Inafune, they would truly be conceptualized into what we know today from the artistic mind of Hayato Kaji. You could say this creation was sort of a dream team collaboration. The now traditional Robot Master contest would return again, this time with over 220,000 character submissions. With the Robot Master contest underway, the goal this time around for the new new batch was finding a way to incorporate their unique enemy skills into the overarching themes of Mega Man 7, thus making the unique powers significantly more impactful, implementing their use throughout the various stages for fun interactive progression points throughout. Additionally, Inafude had a fun idea to include a hidden versus mode. This particular Easter egg I personally had no clue about until replaying this game for this review. If a specific password is entered followed by pressing the L and R buttons, a secret versus mode is available. This versus mode would be completed and incorporated into the game files within 2 days. Literally 2 days. Imagine what they could have done with a week or even a month. I'm not too familiar with this mode and I only played around with it momentarily, but the fact this was added to the game at all really shows the love the Capcom team has for this franchise. I for one would much rather play Mega Man Power Battles personally, but it's a fun Easter egg to check out. Mega Man 7 is well known for its low print run on the aftermarket scene, and for good reason. In the summer of 1995, Capcom finalized localization of Mega Man 7, but was hesitant to release the game, ultimately deciding against it. This resulted in a negative outpour by the North American Capcom community, so much so they ultimately forced the hand of Capcom. This resulted in the eventual release of the project stateside. With that said, always voice your opinion, even the smallest voice can truly make an impact. Additionally, the demand for various Capcom titles around this time did not meet supply expectations, and as a result, found Capcom scaling back on the overall production of the software for the release quarter of Mega Man 7. In other words, you have a finite supply of Mega Man 7 copies out there, and not a substantial print run outside the initial batch. I had a very difficult time even finding the game for rent upon release, and again, if not for stumbling upon it at my local Blockbuster, may not have had the opportunity to play this until years later. So with that said, just what exactly unfolded throughout the events of Mega Man 7. After the events of Mega Man 6, Dr. Wily was officially brought to justice at the hands of Mega Man. Locked away for his crimes committed, Wily would be silenced once and for all, or would he? Yet through his absence, something was apparent. Wily had enough hindsight to form a contingency plan in the event this hand was dealt. Sometime around the events of Mega Man 6, Wily began work on the safety net by means of his latest advancements in robotics. Locked away deep within Wily Labs, advanced robot masters lay dormant, with the ability to activate in the event Dr. Wily went offline. Like clockwork, after 6 months of silence, they did just that. Reactivate and began wreaking havoc in search of their creator. These robot masters would not only seek out Dr. Wily, they would set the entire city ablaze in efforts to locate him. With the new robot masters actively running amok through the city, Mega Man is called to action once more and leads a charge into the middle of the city. Mega Man arrives on the scene just in time to locate Dr. Light, who informs Mega Man of the events unfolding. Just then, Mega Man stands in shock as the city structure that secured Wily begins to crumble. Breaking loose out of captivity rises Wily once more, with piercing eyes staring back at Mega Man from his hovering skull capsule above. As Mega Man proceeds to give chase, he is confronted by a new face bearing a striking resemblance to his own technological attributes. The two begin to square off momentarily, only to confirm after their scuffle that both their teams have common interest in the search of Dr. Wily. The two teams call a temporary truce with the notion they would indefinitely cross paths again as these events unfold. Mega Man 7 opens with the introduction of 4 brand new robot masters. The very first thing that stands out to me is the sheer size of these new robot masters. Where the 8-bit formula typically kept the robot master sprite work relatively in scale with Mega Man, these new renditions feel larger than life. I for one am in favor of these new designs. The larger overall stature gives you almost an underdog feel going into the fight. These larger design scales really help display their creative flair and theme. You now have the likes of robot masters such as Junkman, who towers over Mega Man composed of heaps and shavings of scrap metal. The animation is fluid and you can really see the character fluidity here as he burrows throughout the corridors to deliver a deadly blow. The stage also has some awesome enemy designs such as the nests of Robopest that have made their homes nesting deep within the layers of the scrapyard. Turbo Man is my favorite bootleg Bumblebee. Seriously, I adore this character, from the sweet exhaust pipes protruding from his back to the giant turn and burn tires treading off the shoulders. He looks too sweet with all the small details such as the checkered racing stripe across his helmet, strategically placing all his transformed parts to his framework perfectly. His stage is incredibly fun to journey through. The Capcom team nailed the stage aesthetic, depicting the real feel of the automotive racing experience. As you progress through, you blow through a NASCAR-esque warehouse full of racing-themed enemies, only to end up boarding a mad cargo truck carrying some much-needed aftermarket engine parts for our boy Turbo Man. Shade Man is by far my my favorite of the 8 Robot Masters. His stage is not only a homage to the classic horror tropes, but also gives nod to some of my favorite classic game series. I grinned from ear to ear when I initially saw robotic zombies rise from their graves in the pale moonlight. The nod to ghosts and goblins is so well thought out, down to the secret track available upon entering the stage. As the moonlight fades, the creatures of the night begin to howl, transforming into the brand new robotic horrors. We even stumble upon a Count Wily painting deep within the stage. This fight is very fun and captures the real feel of being truly preyed upon. I will look up only to find Shademan lurking in the darkest parts of the room, only to swoop down like any great vampire king would. His stature is large and menacing, and how they captured his essence fits the narrative perfectly. Who thought I would get a Dracula fight in my Mega Man games? One strength Mega Man 7 truly captures for the first time is implementing the various Robot Master power-ups throughout the stages themselves. There are many instances you will utilize your enemy's skills to further flesh out your adventure. Junkman stage is completely interactive, utilizing the various power-ups such as the Freeze Cracker to discover alternate paths for items. Using Thunderbolt powers the internal infrastructure of Junkman's factory to discover secrets within. You may even burn down a specific tree in Slashman stage with Scorch Wheel to discover Mega Man's faithful companion, Beat. Now, directing attention to the 4 initial Robot Master setup, I'm not too sure if this concept was recycled from the layout of the Game Boy titles. In those, you would initially be introduced to the first 4 Robot Masters, followed by a transitional stage that included a Robot Killer battle, then followed by the remaining 4 Robot Masters. It could also be to help newcomers of the series become a bit more familiar with the traditional rock, paper, scissors style format, making the discovery of each Robot Master's weakness a bit more easy. Nonetheless, if you prefer having the original 8 Robot Masters from the very start of the game, there is a code that grants players that access. Rush returns with his traditional Rush Coil and Rush Jet, while this time around coming equipped with Rush Search. Here, Rush aids Mega Man by digging in specific locations that Mega Man stands over to discover items buried below. Yet, my absolute favorite addition in Mega Man 7 comes in the form of the new Rush Super Adapter. This, in my opinion, was a fantastic idea, combining the 2 adapter enhancement from Mega Man 6, making for one overall fusion between Rush and Mega Man. By locating 4 specific Rush plates hidden among the stages, you gain access to this brand new design. In due time, you can even upgrade your Rush adapter with the new Hyper Rocket Buster, granting Mega Man a long-range homing strike and a charge shot while the new adapter is equipped. You can also seek out Beak along the way, whom has been captured in the depths of the robotic terrains. Freeing him from captivity grants you the use of Beat. However, this time around, Beat aids Mega Man in the event he falls off the stage, swooping in to grab Mega Man and carrying him to safety. Our newest quality of life improvement this go around comes in the exit port, allowing you to exit a stage in the event the Robot Master has been defeated. I never realized I would appreciate this so much until I found myself searching out the Rush plates for the adapter, along with various other items needed to collect along the way. When it comes to taking alternate paths in the stages, it's super convenient to be able to locate these items and immediately take off to another stage. Eddie is now a proud shop owner in Mega Man 7. You can visit Eddie's cybernetic support shop at any time, which is now run by Dr. Light's new lab assistant, Otto. Mega Man 7 has an in-game currency that comes in the form of bolts, which you collect and spend on various items and power-ups. If you locate Otto's screw in your travels, you can bring it back to the shop and Otto will reduce the price of items to half their initial rate. Now, if only Otto sold retro games, we would truly be in business. Another fun item you can score along your travels is Proto Man's Trusty Shield. This is awarded to you by seeking out the aid of Proto Man in various points along your travel. In your final encounter, your brother puts you to the test and makes sure you are ready for the final battle with Wily. After beating Proto Man in a friendly sparring match, he gives you his shield for the road ahead. Now, I'd like to touch on the music of Mega Man 7 for a moment. The Super NES is well known for some of its superb music scores. The music from Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger are some of the greatest compositions of all time and are exclusive to the Super NES. Mega Man 7 adds to that great lineage of Super NES sound. Tracks like Burstman's theme and Wily Castle 3 are some of my absolute favorite bops. This composition was a collaboration of 10 people, which included the infamous Ippo Yamada. I can constantly jam out to this while working on my craft, like editing this video. Upon defeating the initial 4 Robot Masters, Mega Man arrives back to Light Labs only to find that Wily ransacked the Robot Museum and took off with Gutsman. Meanwhile, another 4 of Wily's Robot Masters surface and continue to assault the city. Mega Man follows in pursuit while Bass decides to go off on his own only to get his ass handed to him. Seriously, what is up with this guy? I know it's a pride thing, some sort of wild ambition to best our Blue Bomber and prove a self-fulfilling prophecy that tests his true strength, but in this game, he really just comes off as an immature little bitch, and I get that's probably what they were going for to an extent, but did they have to do him dirty like that? After a brief brief run-in with Mega Man, the gang proceeds to send Bass back to Light Labs for some much-needed repairs. When Mega Man arrives home, he finds the lab in shambles, with Wily trolling our hero from the video screen above. The big reveal here is that Bass and Treble are Wily's creations, whom were secretly undercover the entire time with the intent to steal Mega Man's new Rush Adapter upgrades. As you make your way to Wily's fortress, the stage is set. Mega Man sprints through the open doors as if invited for a night of festive events. Right out the gate, the color of these stages pop with a vibrant color array of purple and yellow hues that really give a degree of depth to the overall atmosphere. Lights begin to flicker on and off as you make your way through some of the tight platforming segments. This tends to showcase the new Rush Adapters quite well. I tend to use them a bit more throughout the Wily stages. As you initially progress, you eventually run into the duo of Bass and Treble. Be prepared to have to deal with them because you will see them a lot throughout. Now, as much as I love the designs and aesthetic of the Wily Fortress, my big issue here is the stages themselves. In a sense, they feel more so an exhibition for Bass and Treble more than a collection of stages that showcase the Mega Man experience as a whole. Now, I understand the need for story progression points, and I love whooping up on Bass and Treble overall, but the levels themselves don't really capture the journey as I would prefer them to. In my opinion, the Wily Fortress should be a showcase of the various challenges you have endured throughout the many stages, bringing them together in a package that puts your skills to the ultimate test. Between the two fights with Bass and Treble plus another lackluster fight with a robotic tortoise, seriously, didn't they learn from Mega Man 3? I wasn't super impressed with these designs and boss fights overall. That's until, however, I reached the final segment. Yes, you know where I'm going with this. As I stated, you eventually run into Bass and Treble again, only this time they take full advantage of the stolen Super Adapter meant for Mega Man and Rush. After Bass takes his third straight L, Mega Man marches forward onto Wily's final gauntlet of Robot Masters and the sheared terrors deep within the Skull Fortress. Holy hell, this is the Wily fight of Wily fights. If you couldn't tell the Mad Doctor was holding a grudge after putting his ass behind bars months prior, well, you do now. The first round with Wily isn't so bad, and I overall enjoy the fight, giving me a Super Mario World feel with the Mecha Koopa inspired Skullbots. The patterns here aren't too awfully difficult, but whatever you do, don't waste too much time here, nor get hit, because I'm telling you, you're going to need to save all your health and E-tanks for the Wily capsule fight. Wily isn't playing with your ass this time. The Doctor has revamped his Wily capsule with some real tech. This is one of, if not the most painful endurance rounds I've ever faced. I don't care how many online students of the game tell you this fight isn't a challenge. For those that enjoy playing through games blindfolded without a tutorial, you aren't going to grasp the rhythm of this boss battle first time around, so be prepared to get your ass handed to you. Trust me, you will be doing the 8 Robot Master Gauntlet repeatedly because this fight is grueling. The biggest challenge here is dodging the orbital elemental spears and finding that sweet spot to slide between frames in effort to clear them as you jump. There's not only that, but at the same time, Wily takes little to no damage while hovering awkwardly in peculiar positions. Only specific weapons can hit him if and only if they are powered up and fired in range. After a grudge match with Wily, Mega Man takes down Wily's latest capsule device, only for Wily to kneel at the feet of our Blue Bomber once more. As Mega Man looks on, he no longer feels remorse for this twisted old fool. It's at that moment he begins charging his Mega Buster for a fatal blow. As Mega Man struggles internally with his moral code, Wily reminds our hero that robots may never harm humans, as this would go against the law for robotics and Mega Man's programming. Mega Man snaps, stating he is more than a robot, and with that brief moment of hesitation, Bass and Treble drop into the chamber, recovering their creator. As Bass looks back, he states, "He who hesitates is lost," teleporting away. Mega Man makes haste and steps away from the imploding Skull Fortress, displaying an iconic scene for the ages. Here's my thing with Mega Man 7. It might just be the fact that there was only one flagship installment of the classic Mega Man on the Super NES, or that it was overshadowed by the X series altogether, but no matter how many times I come back to this game, there is this aura about it that feels mysterious. What I mean by that is it feels as if I'm rediscovering it over and over. It might just be due to the game being so far off my radar for so long. If I were to make a time capsule and bury it deep within the Earth's crust, bet there would be a copy of Mega Man 7 in there. Skipping ahead, I knew Mega Man 8 was on the horizon, but with Mega Man 7 coming out so late on the console, it was truly glossed over, and in a sense, it sort of seeps out of my subconscious. As weird and as cryptic as that sounds, I hold this game in high regards. The Mega Man 7 experience is one of a kind, and that is quite literally. Sprite work wise, it was never duplicated, and the sheer size of Mega Man on screen can almost be overwhelming at first glance. If you are more familiar with the classic NES installments, it's going to take a little getting used to, yet in time, you do adjust. As much as I love the NES Mega Man games, I feel the aesthetic of Mega Man 7 captures the look of the Blue Bomber perfectly, so much so I consider this my definitive version of the Mega Man design altogether. Where you could say the likes of the Wily Wars is on par with the 16-bit overhaul, it's still aesthetically basically mirrors the 8-bit formula the way Mario All-Stars does so with the Mario series. Although I love the style of Mega Man 7, I prefer a smaller on-screen presence I get with the NES games. That primarily comes into play during critical stretches of the gameplay, giving off an illusion of depth to your surroundings, yet also in the same breath feel that the larger sprite work is taken into consideration and it fits quite well here. Outside the final act of the game, I think Mega Man 7 falls into that Super Mario World territory where I'm somewhat visually smitten by the graphical presentation, yet the challenges isn't quite on par with the core 6 games. To be fair, I'm totally okay with this. In fact, I can come back to this game over and over again. It's right there at the top of my list. With that said, I can't help but get this feeling of what if we were just given more time with this, and that's my biggest criticism with this game. I don't have any major flaws to present here. What I'm left with, more or less, is the feeling of wanting more of the same, only fleshed out and expanded upon. The greatest disservice of Mega Man 7 lies within its potential, just what it could have been, whether that be through the various stage set pieces or elaborating more so on the stage design by means of sheer length and story collectively. The game doesn't feel rushed in any sense, but at the same time feels like we are missing something. I would have loved to have a dedicated robot museum stage and fleshed out a little bit more of Wily's castle. Seeing as we only have one castle this go around, it wouldn't have hurt to have an additional stage somewhere inside those castle corridors. In conclusion, I would have killed to see more games in this aesthetic, and one of my biggest issues with this series going forward was the fact that we would eventually take a step backwards in gameplay, never truly taking advantage of the classic 16-bit and 32-bit Mega Man experience. With the release of X2 and X3, I was starving for another classic mainline title, and perhaps one day we will see a return to form for the classic 16-bit Mega Man. But as the credits close on Mega Man 7, we see a glimpse into the future as a shooting star streaks across the sky. With that said, when we return, Mega Man will be headed into the 5th generation of home consoles with Mega Man 8.